So we can correct an ecclesial authority, even the Pope, if he misspeaks or speaks out beyond his authority, but always with reverence. And this is what is lacking among these apostates in the church. And this is how you can tell which camp you belong to. And everyone can tell which camp you belong to. If you lack reverence with abusive words on your tongue toward the Holy Father, you are not a disciple of Christ. You can think whatever you want, but you are not.
Thanks for tuning in to Everything Catholic again. And again, there's no compilation in this video like I usually share with you, but rather quite a long video on the state of the church today. And I hope all of you will learn quite a lot from this one. Listen to this.
Obedience. This is the greatest abuse, I should say disobedience, in the church today. Obedience is being abused more than any other virtue among all Christians today, more than ever. If there's one virtue that is being trampled asunder today, it is obedience. And yet, people that are in movements that promote the spiritual or mystical gifts, like the divine mercy mystical gift or the divine will gift, are trampling asunder obedience. We found this in the 90s. We find this today. When people were doing things against the will of the ecclesiastics to promote these devotions. You can't do that. Oh, I'm doing it in the name of Jesus, so I don't care if I violate the Holy Church or their laws. It doesn't matter. God comes first. I don't need to pay attention to the priests or the bishops. This is a delusion, and this is what Jesus tells Catherine of Siena. You cannot bypass the chain of command God put in place. I am a testament to this. I am not preaching. I am sharing what I live. Do you think that I, as a priest, in religious life for 40 years, could speak to you today about this if I didn't live it myself? No, I wouldn't even be here if I didn't live it. Certainly, I may disagree with this or that an ecclesiastic says, and I did this publicly. I showed my disagreement publicly in a letter written to a bishop out west, who publicly forbade Louisa's writings in his diocese, saying they contain errors. And I wrote him back, and I sent this letter I hand brought it to the dicastery in Rome. I brought this letter, and I sent it to the bishop. I said, "Excuse me, Your Excellency, you are misinformed and mistaken. Louisa's writings contain no errors. The Church, the Vatican, the dicastery, the Archdiocese has said the same thing in writing. How can you go against the church you profess to uphold, to obey? You can't do both." Within a month, he changed his letter and he says, "Okay, I'm allowing Louisa's writings in the diocese, but not without my permission. In other words, I'm allowing prayer groups, but they have to be supervised, etc., etc." So we can correct an ecclesial authority, even the Pope, if he misspeaks or speaks out beyond his authority, but always with reverence. And this is what is lacking among these apostates in the church. And this is how you can tell which camp you belong to. And everyone can tell which camp you belong to. If you lack reverence with abusive words on your tongue toward the Holy Father, you are not a disciple of Christ. You can think whatever you want, but you are not. And why do I say that? Because this is the consistent message of Jesus, not just to St. Catherine of Siena, but to Faustina and Basulariden and others whose writings the church has approved. Take, for example, one time when Faustina went to the superior, to whom she made vows. She made it to the community and to the superiors. And she wanted to do a mortification for 7 days. And Faustina was told by Jesus, first ask permission. And she did so, and the superior refused her permission to do this mortification. And Jesus appeared to her again that evening, and he told her, well, let me give you the full flavor of this. This is found in Diary 28, Diary Entry 28, the Diary of Divine Mercy, Entry 28. So Jesus asks her to ask her Mother Superior for permission. Jesus appears to her again that evening, asking her why she has not done so, why she did not ask her superior. The next day, Faustina expresses her desire to her superior. Her superior responds, "I will not permit you to wear any hair shirt." Now, why did she say that? Because Faustina had bad health. She was suffering from tuberculosis as it was. She says, "Absolutely not. If the Lord Jesus were to give you the strength of a colossus, I would then permit those mortifications," unquote. No, so was the superior being disobedient to Jesus' request? No. Jesus will ask his saints to obey the priest before him. Why would he do that? Because he put this chain of command in motion for a reason, for the betterment of the whole church, not for individuals, for the whole church. And Faustina leaves her superior, and immediately she sees Jesus standing near the kitchen door. And she questioned Jesus about commanding her to perform these mortifications. Jesus asked her to do this mortification, but he said, first get permission for your superior. So Jesus asks her to do a mortification. The superior says no. She sees Jesus again. And Jesus says, "I was here during your conversation with the superior, and I know everything. I don't demand mortification from you, but obedience. By obedience, you give great glory to me and gain merit for yourself," unquote. So here Faustina learned that obedience through God's representatives to God is indispensable for holiness. This idea, we don't need the hierarchy, is not of God. Another occasion. So Faustina was praying for a certain soul on one occasion. This is found in Diary 364 and 365. And after 3 days of doing penance, she went to confession. And she shared with the priest what she had done, meaning what mortification she had undertaken. And she was surprised to hear him tell her that she should not have done this because it was done without permission. She assumed it would have been all right. But afterwards, she said, "Oh, my Jesus, so it was willfulness again." And she asked pardon for having assumed permission and asked for another mortification. And her priest, the confessor, what did he tell her? He didn't ask from her any exterior mortification, but an interior mortification. He said that her mortification was to meditate during Mass on why the Lord submitted to be baptized. Now, she did not consider this a mortification, but later on she wrote in Diary Entry 365 that this is a mortification of the will because she was told to do so. And it is in this that interior mortification consists, unquote. So you see, our ways are not the Lord's ways. What we consider nothing, the Lord considers great. What we consider insignificant, the Lord considers significant. So if we are in a condition, as prophesied by Our Lady of Akita, Japan, where there is cardinal against cardinal, bishop against bishop, priest against priest, we always go with those who are in union with Peter. This is the secret to holiness. You don't have to found monasteries. You don't have to save the church. You don't have to stop wars. You don't have to perform great fasts and mortifications. All you have to do is follow the little way, described by the little flower, Saint Thérèse de Lisieux, which did not consist in founding great monasteries like her foundress, Teresa of Avila, but in submitting her will to the will of God constantly, through Christ's representatives, through the superiors. And if you don't have a superior, if you're a civilian living in the world, a married man or woman, then you can always submit your will to the teachings of the church. And stop following these fake YouTubers who are leading you away from the Pope, leading you away from the magisterium, telling you, oh, the Pope is speaking heresy, don't follow the church. And they put on this fake voice like they're authorities. But on the inside, these people have no backbone because they do not have interior mortification to submit their will to Christ's representatives in union with the Pope. They do not want to do that. They are not disciples of Christ. So it is time for us, children of light, as Our Lady of the Mary Movement of Priests said. As children of light, stand up and fight. But our weapon is the rosary, is the will that is submitted to the will of God through the ecclesial authorities. This is the greatest mortification you can perform. Do not be deceived. Follow, you know what St John Vianney said, the patron of confessors, the humble French priest. He said, read few books, but good ones. Why did he say few? To avoid the temptation of running to follow this and that, like a bee buzzing around without ever landing permanently in one place. Or like headless chickens rolling around in barnyard dust. You have to be united with the head in order to have guidance. And the head is Christ, who is always one with the office of the papacy. What does the papacy represent? What is the name of the Pope? He has two titles, Roman Pontiff and Vicar of Christ. So what does the name Roman Pontiff mean? It's the bridge builder. It's Romanus Pontifex. It is a title that means he who establishes a bridge between the world and Rome. You know, whenever the Pope gives a blessing, he gives a blessing from the city to the cities. That's known as urbi et orbi, to the city of Rome and to the world. It's in Latin, urbi et orbi. It refers to the most solemn apostolic blessing given by the Pope, traditionally from the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica on Christmas, Easter, or immediately following his election. Or it can be given on other occasions. But it's delivered from the city, urbi, to all the cities throughout the world at orbi. And that is why Pontifex Romanus emphasizes Rome, the bridge builder who establishes a bridge of the world leading to Rome. All roads lead to Rome spiritually, even though that was a word used back in the time of the Roman Empire, which was true, but it's all the more meaningful when understood spiritually. Now, what does the term Vicar of Christ mean? This is another name of the Pope. He's the one who acts in the person of Christ until he comes. He's Christ's representative on earth. Vicar of Christ is a title of the Pope implying his supreme and universal primacy. Now, the Pope has limits when it comes to his teaching authority. So do priests. What is this teaching authority limited to? 4 fields that are articulated by the First Vatican Council. His teaching authority is limited to faith, number 1, morals, number 2, church governance, number 3, and church discipline, number 4. So if the Pope speaks about something unrelated to these 4 fields, which he has done and which popes will continue to do, and they can, because many fields like medicine or immigration or the environment touch upon morals. They do. For example, colonization, in vitro fertilization. These are scientific methods, but they involve morality. So the Pope has a reason to talk about them. But here's the thing. The Pope should, they haven't always done this, they should qualify. This is not directly related to morals or faith or church discipline or church governance, but it does impact morals. Therefore, I defer my competency when it comes to the scientific methods employed here with the church's competency of morality. So, for example, if the Pope speaks about immigration and says it's bad to deport citizens from the United States, and that's it, he's not speaking as a competent individual in the field of immigration because he's not a politician. He doesn't know all the details. He doesn't know what's going on. He has to defer his knowledge to those who are competent in politics. But if he says, oh, deporting all illegal immigrants is not the right thing to do because not all of them are there with criminal records or with a bad background or with any record at all that would suggest that they would violate American law. But those that are violating the American law should be deported. Again, he should say, this is a matter of morals that the church has competency in, but my statement comes from the stats, the statistics that are provided to me from the state. Okay? Can the state forge these statistics? Of course. Can the church be misinformed? Of course. Pope Pius XI, the Fatima Pope, took away Padre Pio's faculties for 10 years. After the 10 years, during the investigation to determine the authenticity of his stigmata and his other gifts, the Pope came out with a statement. I was not badly disposed toward Padre Pio. I was badly informed, unquote. These are the words of Pope Pius XI. So yes, the Pope can be misinformed. And that is all the more reason why whenever he speaks on things unrelated to these four fields of church competency, he should say so. Because the church does not have authority in every field. It must defer its judgment to the facts provided by the government when it comes to other issues, whether it's global warming or immigration or vaccines or whatever it is. And sometimes the government doesn't know all the answers either, all right? So here's where we come face to face with the interior mortification of the will in the church. Here's where the rubber meets the road. Here's where you discern the disciple from the dissident, the apostle from the apostate. And the litmus test is, are they in union with Rome and the Pope? Because if they're not, they are schismatics.
Well, that is all for the video this time. Again, thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time to be here with us. Always remember that if ever you have any feedback or suggestion, please don't ever hesitate to let us know in the comments below.